Not beaten yet. This is so close. McLaughlin Levrone for history. She's driving for the line, and she's done it.
Sydney McLaughlin Levrone was already the queen of the 400-meter hurdles, holding 6 world records and looking unbeatable. But she walked away from all that to try something that seemed impossible, breaking a 40-year-old barrier that many thought would never fall. When Sydney announced she was switching from hurdles to the flat 400 meters, the doubters came out in full force. She knew it too. After her historic race in Tokyo, she admitted, "I knew there were a lot of people doubting me with making the switch from 400 meters hurdles to the flat 400 meters. The criticism made sense. Why leave an event where you're untouchable to start over in one of track and field's most brutal races?"
How are we feeling after that?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. Everyone just wanted to go in there and do their job. We weren't really going for a time. We just wanted to obviously do our part and win the race. So it's always special to also have had a champion.
The flat 400 is different from hurdles. There's nowhere to hide, no technique to master except pure speed and pain tolerance. It's too long to sprint the whole way, but too short to pace yourself. And waiting for Sydney in Tokyo was Marileidy Paulino, the Olympic champion from the Dominican Republic, who had already beaten Sydney once before. That loss happened in Paris in 2023, and it stung. Sydney had led most of that race, pushing hard from the start. But the 400 is cruel to those who go out too fast. In the final stretch, when lactic acid floods your muscles and every step feels like concrete, Paulino flew past her. Sydney learned that day that talent alone wasn't enough. She needed a different approach. So she went back to the drawing board with her coach, Bobby Kersey. This wasn't just any coach. This was the mastermind who had already turned Sydney into the greatest female hurdler in history. Kersey put her through brutal training sessions with former UCLA runner Willington Wright. The goal was simple but terrifying. Break the 48-second barrier that no woman had touched in 4 decades. Only one person had ever run faster than 48 seconds. Marileidy Paulino from East Germany, who clocked 47.60 back in 1985. But that record came with a shadow. Koch ran during the height of East Germany's systematic doping program, making her time both impressive and suspicious. For 40 years, that mark stood alone, seemingly untouchable. Sydney's journey back to the flat 400 wasn't smooth. She first tried the event in 2023, but injuries ruined her world championship plans. She returned to hurdles in 2024, winning her second Olympic gold and setting another world record of 50.37 seconds in Paris. But the flat 400 kept calling her back. In 2025, she finally committed. The track world watched nervously as one of its biggest stars took an enormous risk. What if she wasn't fast enough? What if years of hurdle training had changed her running style too much? What if she lost in both events? The first sign that something special was brewing came in the semifinals in Tokyo. Sydney broke the 19-year-old American record with a time of 48.29 seconds, destroying Sonia Richards-Ross's old mark. But even after that performance, she said she still had something left in the tank. The track world held its breath. Race day arrived with Tokyo's typical humidity, but then evening rain cooled things down and made the track slick. The same Japan National Stadium where Sydney had set her first hurdles world record in 2021 was about to witness something equally historic. Sydney got lane 5 while Paulino was stuck in lane 9, the outside lane where she couldn't see her competition. Paulino later explained how tough that was. Lane 9 did not help me much as I ran without any visual reference. But Sydney had her own challenges. This wasn't her natural event, and the pressure was enormous. When the gun fired, Sydney moved well early but didn't blast out like some flat 400 runners do. She had learned from that painful loss in Paris. Patience would be key. Through the first 200 meters, she was in good position, but not dominating. Coming around the final turn, Sydney looked smooth and controlled. She had a slight lead, but this is where the 400 gets nasty. This is where dreams die and legends are born. Behind her, Paulino was charging hard, using every ounce of her Olympic champion experience. Into the home stretch, the two women were locked in an epic battle. For Sydney, this was uncharted territory. Her recent hurdles races had been solo time trials against the clock. She hadn't been in a real fight like this in years, but instead of tightening up, she seemed to relax and let her speed flow. With 30 meters to go, Sydney opened up a gap of about 4 body lengths. But Paulino wasn't done. The Olympic champion was actually gaining ground. Her form getting raggedy, but her determination absolute. Both women lunged at the line in one of the most dramatic finishes in 400-meter history. When the times flashed on the scoreboard, the crowd erupted. Sydney had clocked 47.78 seconds, the second fastest time in history and the fastest in 40 years. But the real shocker was Paulino's 47.98. For the first time ever, two women had broken 48 seconds in the same race. Sydney's reaction said everything. She looked at the clock and put her hands on her head in complete shock. Even she couldn't believe what had just happened. "You don't run something like that without amazing women pushing you to it," she said afterward, giving credit to Paulino for making both of them reach new heights. Coach Bobby Kersey had predicted this moment. Before the race, he told reporters, "I felt that somebody was going to have to run 47-something to win this." He had trained Sydney for exactly this scenario, knowing that Paulino wouldn't go down without a fight. But Paulino wasn't devastated by the loss. Despite missing gold, she was thrilled to be part of history. "I'm thankful for having the opportunity to break 48, she said. "I still feel like a winner. I've spent 5 years every day training for this." Her attitude showed the respect these athletes have for pushing each other to greatness. The bronze medal went to Salwa Eid Nasser of Bahrain in 48.19, a time that would have won the previous two world championships. The depth of talent in this race was incredible. Nasser, who had also beaten Sydney before, made a bold prediction after the race. "I think that very soon, the women's 400-meter world record will be broken." That statement carried weight. This was someone who knew Sydney's talent firsthand, and if she thought the world record was in danger, people listened. Koch's 47.60 suddenly didn't seem so safe anymore. But Sydney wasn't done making history in Tokyo. 3 days later, she lined up for the 4x400-meter relay as the anchor for Team USA. The relay is different from individual races. It's about trust, timing, and delivering when your teammates need you most. The American team for the relay was completely fresh: Isabella Whitaker, Lynna Irby Jackson, Aaliyah Butler, and Sydney. None of them had run in the preliminary round, a bold strategy that showed complete confidence in their ability. From the first handoff, the Americans were in control. Whitaker ran 50.12 to give them a good start. Then, Irby Jackson took over and absolutely blazed her leg in 48.71, opening up a lead of more than 10 meters. By the time Butler finished her 49.96 split, the race was basically over. When Sydney got the baton for the anchor leg, she was so far ahead it felt like a victory lap. But she didn't coast. True to form, she ran a blistering 47.82 split, just 400 slower than her individual race. The team time of 3 minutes 16.61 seconds was a championship record, beating the mark the USA had set way back in 1993. Sydney's teammates were amazed by her anchor leg. Irby Jackson said, "To just be able to bring the gold medal home, being part of the legacy of the USA's women's 4x400-meter relay is incredible." But for Sydney, it felt natural. "My last lap felt like a victory lap for us. I just wanted to finish strong because you never know who is behind chasing you." Jamaica took silver in 3 minutes 19.25 seconds, while the Netherlands grabbed bronze in 3 minutes 20.18 seconds. The Dutch team was anchored by Femke Bol, Sydney's biggest rival in the hurdles. Bol had hoped to chase down Sydney in the final leg, but the gap was just too big. Still, Bol was happy with bronze, adding to her gold in the 400 hurdles and silver in the mixed relay. For Sydney, winning 2 golds in Tokyo proved that her risky switch was worth it. She had silenced the doubters and rewritten the history books.
For history, she's driving for the line, and she's done it! 47.80!
Sydney McLaughlin Levrone had just done something no woman had done in 40 years, run faster than 48 seconds in the 400 meters. But as she walked onto the wet track in Tokyo, everyone wondered, could she do something even more amazing? She was about to run in the women's 4x400-meter relay final on the last day of the World Championships. What happened next made every other runner wonder if they were even in the same race. McLaughlin Levrone had already made headlines earlier that week by running 47.78 seconds in the individual 400 meters. That's the second fastest time in history, behind only a 40-year-old record from East Germany that many people question. She had switched from her usual 400-meter hurdles event, where she already owned 6 of the 10 fastest times ever recorded, to try something new. Many people doubted this decision. She proved them all wrong in spectacular fashion. But the relay was supposed to be different. This was a team event where individual brilliance had to blend with perfect teamwork. Other countries had strong teams too. Jamaica had speed. The Netherlands had Femke Bol, the 400-meter hurdles world champion known for her lightning-fast finishing kicks. This wasn't going to be a one-woman show, or so everyone thought. Team USA made a bold choice for the final. They completely changed their lineup from the qualifying rounds. None of the 4 women who would run in the final had even competed in the earlier heats. Isabella Whitaker would start things off. Lynna Irby-Jackson would take the second leg. Aaliyah Butler would handle the third. And McLaughlin Levrone would bring it home on the anchor leg. This fresh leg strategy was risky. Relay teams usually stick with runners who have already proven they can handle the pressure and execute clean handoffs under championship conditions. But USA's coaches had a different plan in mind. From the very first step, it was clear this wasn't going to be a normal race. Whitaker burst out of the blocks and immediately took control of the first 400 meters. Her split time of 50.12 seconds put USA ahead right from the start. She handed the baton to Irby-Jackson in first place. But what happened next was where things got really interesting. Irby-Jackson took that baton and absolutely destroyed the field on the second leg. She ran 48.71 seconds, which was faster than what most individual 400-meter runners can manage in a standalone race. By the time she reached the halfway point of the relay, she had opened up a lead of more than 10 meters over everyone else. Think about that for a moment. In a relay where the best teams in the world are separated by fractions of seconds, USA had built a 10-meter gap by halfway through the race. That's not just winning, that's complete domination. Butler took the baton for the third leg and kept the pressure on. Her 49.96 split wasn't just solid, it was exactly what the team needed to maintain their massive advantage. By the time she reached McLaughlin Levrone for the final handoff, USA was ahead by nearly 2 full seconds. 2 seconds might not sound like much, but in elite sprinting, that's an eternity. Most 4x400 relay races are decided by hundredths of a second. Having a 2-second lead going into the final leg meant the race was basically over before McLaughlin Levrone even touched the baton. But here's where things got really wild. McLaughlin Levrone could have jogged that final 400 meters and still won gold. She had such a huge lead that she could have waved to the crowd, taken selfies, and probably still finished first. Instead, she ran like her life depended on it. Her anchor leg time was 47.82 seconds. To put that in perspective, that's faster than what most Olympic champions run in the individual 400 meters. She was running in a relay, having received the baton from a teammate, dealing with rain-soaked conditions, and she still managed to run one of the fastest 400-meter splits in history. As McLaughlin Levrone crossed the finish line, she later said the experience felt like a victory lap for us. I just wanted to finish strong because you never know who is behind, chasing you. It was just an incredible race. The final time told the whole story. USA finished in 3 minutes and 16.61 seconds. That broke the championship record that had stood since 1993 by 1/10 of a second. It was also the 5th fastest time in the history of the women's 4x400 relay. But the real story was in the splits. All 4 American runners recorded the fastest times on their respective legs. Not just 1 or 2 of them, all 4. That means at every single stage of the race, USA was running faster than every other country's best runner for that same leg. Jamaica finished second in 3 minutes, 19.25 seconds, which was actually a season best time for them. Under normal circumstances, that would have been a time to celebrate, but they were still nearly 3 seconds behind USA. In relay terms, that's not just losing, that's being in a completely different race. The Jamaican team knew they had run well. Their runner Stacey Ann Williams said this after the race: "We completed an amazing race. It was not easy to come out on the final knowing that USA and the Netherlands have Sydney and Femke on their last legs. But we came up with silver because we trusted each other on every single leg." The Netherlands took bronze in 3 minutes, 20.18 seconds, also a season best time. They had Femke Bol running anchor. the same woman who had been battling McLaughlin Levrone in the hurdles for years. Ball was known for her incredible finishing speed and ability to chase down seemingly impossible deficits. But there was nothing Ball could do against a 2-second deficit. Even with her 49.10 anchor split, which would have been impressive in any other race, she could only watch McLaughlin Levrone disappear into the distance. Ball was gracious in defeat, saying, "We worked hard to be able to do this, and we have a great team around us to help us achieve our goals. I leave these World Championships with 3 medals, and I'm happy with that." She had won gold in the 400-meter hurdles, silver in the mixed relay, and now bronze in the women's relay. The weather conditions made USA's performance even more remarkable. Rain had been falling throughout the day, making the track slippery and conditions far from ideal. Most athletes struggle in wet conditions, but the American team seemed to thrive in them. McLaughlin Levrone's performance was particularly stunning because of what she had already accomplished that week. She had broken the 48-second barrier in the individual 400 meters just days earlier, running the second fastest time in history. That kind of effort usually leaves athletes drained for days or even weeks. Instead, she came back and ran an even faster split in the relay. Her 47.82 anchor leg was actually faster than her individual 400-meter time when you account for the relay start versus a standing start from blocks. This wasn't just about individual talent, though. USA's team strategy was perfect from start to finish. The decision to use completely fresh runners in the final meant all 4 women were at their peak energy levels. The handoffs were clean and precise. Every runner executed their role exactly as planned. McLaughlin Levrone understood this was a team effort. "When you have great teammates as I have, it's amazing," she said after the race. "Everyone just wanted to go out there, do their job. We weren't really going for a time. We just wanted to, obviously, do our parts and win the race, so it's always special to also add a championship record to the mix." The margin of victory raised questions about whether anyone can compete with McLaughlin Levrone when she's in this kind of form. She had now proven she could dominate in the 400-meter hurdles, where she holds the world record. She had conquered the flat 400 meters, running the second fastest time in 4 decades. And now she had anchored her team to a championship record in the relay.
Just grateful. You know it's there and you put the work in. It's just when you see it kind of come to fruition, it's always just a bit of disbelief. I knew it was going to be a really fast race, great competition, so just to kind of see it all come together, there's always just a bit of awe and wonder.
The 400-meter final in Tokyo turned into a moment that stunned the world. Sydney, known for dominating the hurdles, stepped into unfamiliar territory and made it look effortless. From the gun, her stride was smooth, controlled, almost unreal. By halfway, the crowd sensed it. This wasn't just another race, it was history unfolding. For many years, Marileidy Koch's time of 47.60 seemed like a wall nobody could break. People called it untouchable, and it came from a time in track and field filled with questions and controversy. But on September 18th, 2025, Sydney McLaughlin Levrone came closer than anyone before, less than 0.2 of a second away from ending one of the sport's most talked about records.
I think, Bobby believed that at the time was there, and I believed in Bobby and our work. So it really just was a matter of putting the pieces together and running my race. I think it kind of just shows that anything really is possible. You just got to work for it and work really hard.
Her time of 47.78 not only earned her gold at the World Championships, but made her the second fastest woman in history over the distance. The East German shadow may still loom, but Sydney brought the light. But this wasn't just about one race. This was the culmination of years of grit, faith, and one bold career pivot. Because McLaughlin Levrone wasn't supposed to be here, not in this race at least. She built her name as the Queen of the 400-meter hurdles, dominating the event with a world record of 50.37 and 2 Olympic golds. But in 2025, she made a choice that left many doubting. She dropped the hurdles. It wasn't a move made lightly. The hurdles weren't just her event, they were her kingdom. She was the first woman to break the 52-second barrier and then the 51-second barrier, carving her name into history again and again. And yet, after reigning supreme, she asked herself a bold question. What if I could be the best at something else. As it turns out, she could,